yourself of this information. Oh, okay. I think someone is about recording. Please be aware we are recording the meeting. Mr. Ogon, did you initiate the recording? Okay, I can hear you.
I said I did.
Oh, okay. You were on mute. All right. I think it's proper to let people know that you're about to record.
It will tell them. It will inform everybody that the meeting is.
Oh, okay. Yeah, just good. Okay, so as I was saying, I found there were these scholarships, and so one thing I would like to say, even as before we go into the tips and application tips properly, is that you need to avail yourself of this information. In this journey, information is like, it's like your pound sterling, it's like your dollars, it's like your euros, it's like your power in this trip to graduate school. You need information. It's very important. So I found out about the scholarships, and then I began to explore them. I started visiting their portals one after the other, to see the requirements, the courses, how they align with my interests, how I can write my essays, if my work experience is a plus, the recommendations they require, the documents, for example, transcript and all of that. So when I discovered, oh, I needed my transcript, I reached out to my university. I applied for my transcripts, and then I got a copy mailed to me. So if you are on this call right now, I would want to say if you're preparing for next year, it's okay if you don't have your transcript yet. But if you're looking to apply this year, I think by now you should have your transcript. It's one of those first things you want to check on your list. So after getting my transcripts and a couple other documents, I looked at some other requirements like English language test, and then I registered for the test of English language examination. I sat for that and passed. I also considered some other things. Fortunately for me, most of my programs don't require the GRE, although I wrote the exam, but I didn't need to use I didn't submit my score for any of my applications. So I had a lot of applications, and I applied to, I think, roughly 15 schools, all in all, yes. And then I got a lot of rejections from those ones. So that is the rejection I mentioned on my LinkedIn post. It was in the same year, the same application cycle. 3 scholarships offered me, selected me for the awards, while the rest, a couple others, rejected me as well. For example, I got rejected from the University of California, Berkeley. I got rejected from two Erasmus Mundus scholarship. I got rejected for some of the schools I selected for Chevening. Even though I got the scholarship, 2 of the schools I chose rejected me. They didn't offer me admission. So I had quite a number of rejections. I got rejected from CNC's Pool Mastercard Foundation Scholarship. And which other one? There was this school at Saudi Arabia, I think. Yeah, rejections came from that one as well. So yes, rejection is a part of this journey, and it's something I will talk about when I'm talking about the tips. So for me, when I got this rejection, I cried. I won't lie to you. I will not come to this call and be forming, you have to be strong and be, no. I wept like a child. I cried. I would hug my pillow and cry. Like, why? What am I not doing well? I call my friends and do video call with them and let them see tears rushing down my faces. And then they'll be like, please don't cry, stop crying. And I'm like, please let me cry. So again, I know we have different ways when I'm done talking about my journey, but I want us to be sincere to ourselves. How do you want to handle rejection? Do you want to cry and then move on to finding a solution? Do you want to cry and then not find a solution? Do you want to ignore it and say, oh, I'm not even doing it again? So we are going to address this when we get to the application tips part. So yes, another thing I did was when I started researching the schools, I created a spreadsheet of using Excel to track my applications. So I had an Excel sheet. I wish I could share my screen so you guys can see my spreadsheet, how I did it. Um, scholarships that were available to it, the materials I needed, the deadlines, the examination required, and all of that, if there was application fee or not, the countries, the visa policies, and the post-study policies. These were the things I considered while applying to schools. For me, after my first experience of getting admission without scholarship, I did not bother to apply to any school or program that does not have funding attached to it. I simply wanted scholarships. So I didn't bother to apply to one university of whatever, maybe Nevada. And because I believe I will gain admission, but will I get funding? I wasn't so sure. So I did not bother. I simply applied to scholarships, full scholarships this time around. So if scholarship is your desire, please just target scholarships. And if you believe in sending cold emails to professors, which is another form of scholarship, graduate assistantship or research assistantship, please, it's by all means, you can do that. Or I will advise that you spread, you apply to at least 10 to 15 schools if that is your target, especially if you're pursuing a master's degree, because generally I observed they tend to fund PhD students and candidates more than masters, especially in the US. So I made this spreadsheet and then I had alarms set on my phone. If I have a deadline 24 hours before, I set alarm 24 hours before. So these are the things that helped me during my journey so that I do not miss any deadline. There's a very funny story of my friend. He's done with his master's in Finland now, finished August, but he had this very awkward incident when he was still in Nigeria. So he wanted to submit an application for scholarship, and then it was like few minutes to deadline. He was still trying to make the essay perfect and reveal some things. Some of us can be perfectionists. He was still doing this and doing that. And when he clicked submit, the portal told him, sorry, this application is closed. This is an essay that he spent over a month writing and curating and editing and all. But because I really don't know what was going on in his mind, he could not submit this essay. It was really like he cried. For a guy to like cry like a child, he cried. And so I don't think it's a very nice experience when it's a different thing when you submit an application and you get rejection, you have cried. It's another thing when you do not even have the opportunity to submit your application at all. It can be very painful. So by all means, track your deadlines and be very sure of your requirements. So another thing I paid attention to were the requirements. Some applicants disregard this, and which is very important. If a scholarship tells you you must have a first class and you have a 2-1, I know by faith, as Christians, you may want to exercise your faith and all of that and submit, but I mean, nothing is impossible. Maybe I should not use this example because I'm a Christian myself and I know nothing is impossible. But what I'm trying to say is if a requirement, you do not meet a requirement, like you not strongly meet a requirement, if it is clearly stated first class and you are not first class, I would say do not waste your time. But again, if you have some spare time, if you have time to spare at the expense of nothing, maybe you can turn in the application. But if you have other applications you can submit, I would advise that you focus on other ones. If you do not have your transcript, if, for example, there were some schools that wanted me to send my transcripts directly from the university to their own university. They do not want me to upload a copy. So if you do not have your transcript and you see such a requirement, you can try to reach out by sending an email and all. But if you do not get a positive response, please, by all means, pass such application. Just move on to the next one. So I really focused on the requirements, and I make sure that whatever I was applying to, I knew I was eligible. I meet up with whatever they wanted. I have the score of this exam or that exam or this or that. So that was it. Then pay attention to some instructions. I paid attention to important instructions. For example, the Erasmus Mundus Scholarship. I think last year the instruction changed, but before last year, you're only allowed to apply to 3 programs. I don't know the instruction for this year. I'm not sure, but before you can only apply to 3 different programs in the Erasmus Mundus. If you apply to a 4th one, your scholarship, your application can be cancelled across the 3, and you will not be invited for interview, or you will not be awarded any of the 3 at all. So those are the little mistakes people make, and it bites hard. So I think you can learn from my story. So yes, those were the things I did. And then when I got shortlisted for some of these, before I talk about interview, I want to talk about my essay, what essay writing was for me. So I start writing my essays early, because even now I still have a couple scholarships I'm trying to apply for PhD. I try to start early. If I have a deadline in a month's time, before a month, I would have like a draft of what I want to submit. And this being that you need inspiration to write your essays, whatever you want to write, you can believe that someone else somewhere is thinking about the same idea, So you need to be extra creative, extra original with your own essay. And that takes a lot of time, to be very original with your essay and distinct, write something different from other people. It takes a lot of critical thinking to achieve that. And you don't do that over a 1-hour writing thing. So I would advise to spend at least 2 weeks on your essays. Try to sleep over it. A lot of things can inspire what you write. You could watch a movie tomorrow and you have something to add to your essay. Like, for example, I read a publication, and then it informed, oh, I think I can pick this thing and add it to my essay. Someone tweeted something, and then I checked it and picked something from it, added it to my essays. So that was essay writing for me. I gave myself enough time to think critically and write. Another thing I tried was to maintain good social media presence. I know people must have talked about this. You could have heard from other speakers, but it's very important, and we can't talk about it enough. It's very important for you as an applicant to portray a very good impression on social media. You need to appear scholarly on your social media. So my Instagram page is dead. I haven't used it in like 2 years. But my Twitter is quite active, and I have professors following me who I follow as well. I retweet academic content, even though sometimes, it's social media, it's Twitter, and Nigerian Twitter is a very interesting platform. So I go there and laugh and all of that. But I try to be very intentional about my comments, my likes, my retweets. So because I believe in people may want to go beyond academics. They may want to go beyond achievement. They may want to know who you are as a person. And one of the ways to do that is to visit your social media pages. For example, MasterCard. MasterCard is very particular about who you are. It's not just about your brilliance or something. They want you to be a leader. So they could go to your page, and then what happens when they get to your Twitter page? Oh, you begin to see funny things. So I try to keep a very sane and serene social media platforms, so that anyone that comes to my page will know, oh, she's um, up to something, or she's really enthusiastic about getting the scholarship. I had it pinned on my tweet, on my Twitter page for like a year, that I wanted a scholarship to graduate school. You do not have to pin it on yours, but I'm just saying it's something you will see immediately you open my Twitter page. So when I got invited for interviews, I endeavored to research about the programs the more. I have done this before even applying, but when it comes to interview, it means that every other person that's been invited is as good as you are, or even better, you know. So what you need to do is, how can you answer questions that will make you stand out, and all of those things. So I paid extra attention to, interestingly, there were some applications I did. I didn't have in-depth knowledge of the program, like the course I'm currently studying. When I applied, I was like, design informatics. I'm not really sure what this. I read about it, but I still didn't really get the knowledge of what design informatics was about. But I know I could apply, but I submitted my essays anyway. But when the interview invitation came, for like 5 days straight up, I was just on Google, on school page, reaching out to people, trying to know what the program was about so I could answer questions. And I also tried to develop question and answer techniques. There are ways to answer questions. These are the things you learn on this journey. There's a particular way to answer questions. There are some questions that should be answered in some ways. So you need to learn some of those things, because it worked for me, to be honest. It's worked for me. I remember during my mastercard interview, I answered the question, and the interviewer was like, wow, thank you for answering that question very beautifully. And then I was like, okay. So I think that's all about my graduate journey. Oh, please, that's not all. The very last, I wouldn't even call it last, because it should have come first. But because this is more like an academic gathering, I'm putting it last. But it is a very big factor of my journey, is prayers, and I wouldn't hide it. Although I know not everyone will share the same opinion or interest, but I prayed a lot. I prayed a lot. I prayed a lot. In fact, I had fasting and prayers. I wouldn't say it's what particularly gave me this, but I know God, as a Christian, which I am. I believe there's nothing we get without heaven's intervention. So I believe in the God factor, and that God helped me in my journey, and that the prayer helped not only to get scholarship, but through the journey of graduate application. You know. So very quickly, I'll talk about tips for graduate application. So I'm just going to talk about this, and then we can go to Q&A. It's going to be more like a bit of repetition, but I'll try to chip in new things. So first thing, gather your materials is very important. So by materials, you need to make a list. For example, you need your academic transcript. So reach out to your school, the registrar's office, exams and records, and get your transcript student copy, and then scan it. You need it in a soft copy, like you need a soft copy of it. So make a clear scan of your transcript, and upload it to your drive. Keep it where you can easily access it. Then apply for international passport is very important, although not compulsory. Some scholarships or program will allow you to apply without having your international passport. But I strongly advise you to get it, because by the time you have an offer, it may not be easy to get that document. So you need your international passport. If you need to, I will also suggest, which although it's not very compulsory for most programs, but endeavor to write test of English language examination. For me, I wrote TOEFL. There are other ones like IELTS and Duolingo, although Duolingo is not widely accepted across schools, but it's still very relevant, especially in the very recent post-COVID era, to write that. And if you are considering US schools, please check if they require GRE. If they do, start preparing for it. That does take time. It takes up to like 6 months for you to read well and ace it. So you may want to start early against the coming application cycle. And so after your materials, you need to make a list of schools. So that means you need to spread your research, look far, look wide. If you're very particular about a country, then you may have a narrower search. But if you're not really particular about a country, then you need to extend your search. Look in the UK, in the US, in Europe, in other countries in Europe. You can not consider China, all of other Asian countries as well. So because they have very nice scholarships. I know Singapore, they have like some top 5 schools in Singapore, especially in tech, and that you can have, and they have very juicy scholarship applications. So you need to create the Excel sheets or a spreadsheet like the one I talked about earlier, and fill in all the necessary details. Then you need to begin following them up one after the other, submitting your applications as required, paying application fee, which sometimes you can even get fee waivers if you can reach out to your school, attend a graduate program event or something, and maybe after the graduate program event, you may be eligible for a fee waiver. So those things also happen. And there are also quite a number of scholarships to help people with fee waivers on LinkedIn and on Twitter if you follow the right people. Then write your personal statement. So this is very important. I'm not sure this is the session to talk about how to write personal statements, but I'll just briefly talk about it. Your personal statement, you're telling the admissions committee about yourself, your background, what you have studied, and how what you have studied is shaping who you are currently in terms of career and academics, and who you want to become, why you're applying to the school, what you want to learn, what you are bringing to the table, how your presence will impact other students on the program, and if it's a PhD, you may want to slightly highlight your research interest and how it will be beneficial to the school and your home country. Then you need to talk about your post-study career plans. What do you intend to do with the degree when you're done? And how will it impact the world? So those are the things that come on to personal statement. So when you write this essay, for some schools, especially in the US, there is statement of purpose and there's personal statement. So these two are not very, but they're different, although very complementary. Your stories should still align across both. So for the personal statement, it's in the US, it's more of who you are as a person, your social impact, and how your academics or your career journey so far has influenced that. For the SOP, is more related to your academics, your professional experience, your desire to study and all. But in the UK, it's just a single personal statement, and it's like bringing both together, but more focused on your academics and your professional experience, your study and research and things like that. So after writing these essays, you need to reach out to colleagues or friends, people you think are capable of reviewing these essays, and send to them. For example, I believe if you're on this call, that means you have the help of Dr. Nwankwo to review your essay for you. So the likes of him or other people can review for you. And it's also an added advantage if you can get someone who is knowledgeable in your field of study as well, to also see if what you're writing it's relevant, you know. So it helps. But I would like to state that it's very important for you to be careful. Again, you know, some people they don't know who to turn to or who not to ask for help. They just share their essays everywhere. You need to be careful of sharing your essays so that it doesn't get plagiarized. So you may want to be very cautious of the people you share your essays with. I once heard that some mentors they copy essays and sell it off. I don't know how true that is. I never experienced that, but I did hear that it's happened or it's happening. So I would like it to just be extra careful. Then these essays mostly they have prompts. Essay prompts is like essay question. So when they tell you to write the statement of purpose, some of these schools we mention like some 5 or 6 questions they want you to answer. So you need to pay attention to these questions. For example, in my application to University of California, Berkeley, they after submit SOP, they annotated like 7 questions they were very interested in. And I made sure that maybe for each question I used a paragraph. And you want to be very brief with this essay. Remove irrelevant information, keep the very relevant ones, use use less adjective. Adjective makes your essay cumbersome and long enough. You want to say, I've achieved it, I have successfully. No, remove the successfully. Just go straight to the point because you have less than 700 words to say whatever you have to say. So you need to use the space judiciously. That's that about essay writing. Then if there is any other essays you need to submit, please endeavor to submit them. I would also like to talk about academic CV, which is very important as well. You want to pay good attention to how you present yourself on your CV. If you're applying to a research-based scholarship or program, you need to highlight your interest and maybe how your previous experience aligns with what you currently have. So there's a way you present what you have done. You're not painting it to be what it is not, but you are just using the right words, to put yourself out there, to sell yourself, so that, and we all do research from our day-to-day activities. You've worked for a company and you're a data scientist. We all know data scientists, what they do is they write code. But then, how do you use your environment? How do you use your meetups? How do you use online documents to support what you're doing? It's by research now. Every time you turn to Google to do something, you are carrying out the research. So you just need to, bring all these details together and make it readable and make it make sense to whoever is reading it. So they also know you have a research experience. And I want to say that right now, if you have the opportunity to join a lab or to join a group or a forum on research, please do. There used to be one I joined, although I wasn't very active, but I did join one. I could send the link to Dr. Wakolit and so that you can share with you for whoever is interested. Another thing is your undergraduate thesis. Is it called thesis now? Yes, the undergraduate project. If it is very relevant, you can work with your supervisor to publish this. It's very good to have at least one at this stage. It's because when you get into the program, you see that your competitors, the people with whom you go into the program with, they are also highly enlightened, educated in the field you're studying. So it's very important that you can have at least a way of demonstrating your knowledge of research. They want to know if you can write a paper, if you can reference and cite, and all of these things. So have at least one publication if you can. So reach out to your supervisors. So speaking of supervisors, I'll move on to references. Um, some programs usually require 3 letter of recommendation, and it's again, it all depends. You need to be very sure of the instruction. Some business programs we want to send from 3 professional letters. Some research-based or PhD kind of focused program we want to send from academics. So again, when you are applying, read these instructions, and when you make your spreadsheet, because it's easy to lose track of this tiny details. So, but if you pen them down or save them somewhere, you can easily refresh your mind. I made this mistake in my application to University of California, Berkeley. So, and it's really hot because when I got the rejection mail, and I was like, why? Like, why would they reject me? And then I reached out to the program committee, the admission committee, for a feedback. They arranged a Zoom call just like this one with me, and told me every other part of my application checked out, but that my references did not. So they requested for 3 professional reference letters, and I wouldn't even know how I missed it, but I know I submitted 2 academics and 1 professional. So, and that was their excuse. So it was really painful. It was really painful because I remember I cried. So they told me that was what I did wrong, and they had to just drop my application. So if you want to learn from my story, so be very cautious of what they need, what they ask for. If they want to submit from academic letters, please do. If it's professional, if it's a mix, if you are not sure, you could ask. Please, if there's anything you're unsure of in your application, please email the graduate committee, and somebody will get back to you as to what the due process is. Okay, so moving on from that, I already talked about grad application fee. It's sometimes you have to pay for it if some of them do have. I remember I applied to University College London, and then there was application fee of like £90, I think, and it was a whole lot that I could not afford. So I reached out, and then I wrote why I could not afford, and then it was waived for me. So please endeavor to reach out again on these things so that you don't bear the cost of this, which is a lot of money all alone. And some other tips. Yes, please do your findings. Look for existing or previous scholars in your program, your choice of program. For example, Erasmus. Erasmus is so special. Like, there's a way to apply to Erasmus. So you need to reach out to the incumbent scholars or former scholars. Ask them what do they think is very relevant in the application, and what do they think you should include. All of these things. Ask questions. It will really help. Um, then keep the right set of friends or circle, people that can easily pass information to you or help you out in terms of trouble, or share links with you. You know, when you're applying, when you're on this journey, it's very good to have a group of friends with similar interests, not people that will always tell you, you and this your scholarship thing. I pray it's not end in tears. All of you, some people just casually tell you things like that. But when you have people who share the same interests, who are future driven, they would understand the burden of you writing an essay, and they could even inspire you to write and all of that. So then, and that thing is family. For me, I'm very close to my family, and I was able to convince my parents that this journey is very important to me, and they were supportive. So if you do have family members around, to let them know what you're into so that they can support you in whatever way they can, because it does get tough. In fact, when you're writing the essay, is not the difficult part. It's when you start receiving feedback, and that is when the most difficult part is. So lastly, I want to say that
Please, Doc, can I ask a question, please, Doc?
okay, if you want to ask a question, please just raise your hand and
Okay.
I'll call you. Thank you.
I actually wanted to say you can raise your hand, or there will still be a section for questions, but you can raise your hand if you want to ask.
A whole lot of things have been said, so
yeah, you can raise your hand so that you will not interrupt the flow.
Yes, or you can drop it to the
or
to the chat.
okay,
or you
chat.
can raise your
Okay,
hand.
okay.
Yes.
Okay, no problem. I'll do use that.
All right. So okay, so lastly, I want to say that if you make it to an interview stage, you need to be very convincing. You need to abstain from generic answers to questions. You need to prepare in advance, anticipate your questions, and prepare to answer them. Look for situations in your career journey, in your academics and all of that you can use to answer questions. Anticipate these questions and prepare to answer them. So these were the tips that worked for me. Of course, I know it will change from people to people, but these were the things that helped me to in my scholarship applications. So I think if you have questions now, you may want to drop them to the chat or raise your hand and I'll call you.
Okay, so thank you so much, Monisala, for this detailed presentation. We are glad to be here to hear you open our eyes further to these tips. And we believe that this will work for some of us that are really diligent. The truth of the matter is that why we yearn to hear more of these stories is because we need to be encouraged. Most of us, we have a group more people there, but it seems that people they are having cold feet because of probably sad experiences and all of that. But thank God for these few that are here and listening to us. I know they will benefit and this will work for them. So if you have questions, I this is a time for you to ask. It's an opportunity to ask your question now. So Charles, are you still there with your question? Please, you can
My
use.
question is, yeah, a whole lot of things have been said about this stuff. So, and what I wanted to know is if there could be a group chat where it wouldn't have to be a Zoom meeting.
All right, I understand what Charles is asking. Let me not just move further. We have a WhatsApp group. Um, um, we provide information and all of them. In fact, we started the seminars on WhatsApp, and we decided because some other things to move out, we have a group chat. We provide information. I think that is settled. Is that
Okay,
what you're asking, Charles? Continue, Manisela, I think.
Okay, so why people prepare their questions? So some other things just came to my mind when I went through my notepads just now, and I want to talk about them. So the first is about what scholarship should you apply to? Is every scholarship for you? I want to say that if you go through the requirement and you meet all of the requirements, then by all means apply. Don't look down on your grades, on your year of work experience or something. If the requirement did not clearly state you should have 3 years or 2 or 5, please go ahead to apply. And if the scholarship is not saying you should have a first class, if you have, even if you have a third class, please go ahead to apply. You can always balance in terms of grades with other aspects of your applications. So I'm saying this because some scholarships are focused on one thing, one aspect. They are more focused on one aspect or the other. Some are focused on leadership. Others factor in poverty or your access to funds when you were growing up and how it has impacted who you are. So they believe if they award you a scholarship, you will go further or you will do better. Some are focused on your professional skills, like the World Bank scholarship. I mean, if at least if you don't have 5 years, you probably you're not close to being a manager. I'm not sure that scholarship is for you. So that's like the World Bank. It's more of your career and what you have achieved and how you have impacted your society. Then some focused on leadership and networking, like the Chevening. Some very focused on academics, like the Knight NSC at Stanford University, and then Erasmus Mundus. Erasmus Mundus is also very concerned about your academics. Is usually like 70 to 80% of the cumulative average, by the way. So again, you need to look into this scholarship. Don't just apply blindly. People apply blindly. I didn't apply to all scholarships that were available to me. No, there were some I didn't apply to Stanford NAC because I looked at myself, looked at my level, and I'm like, I don't think this one is for me. So I focused on the ones I thought I would do better. So, but again, you should be able to, you should have a strong belief that you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. Anybody can. So, but you just need to put a balance on it. You get, so that you're not shooting for. I wouldn't say anybody's shooting for too high, to be honest. If you have a third class and you apply to Stanford and you see, I won't say you're shooting for too high, because in the end, there can be something that would distinguish you from other applicants and you get scholarship. But again, just find a balance between all these things. If you know you have a lot of volunteering experience and leadership and all of that, you consider Chevening and MasterCard. If you know you're a first class graduate and you don't have so many work experience, even if you're a fresh graduate or you are still in final year, Erasmus Mundus can award you a scholarship. So these are the things you should consider when you are picking or looking at the scholarships you can apply to. Another thing I want to say is that the information we have out, although it's becoming more voluminous, but it's still very limited. There are so many scholarships that are not popular. They are not in the caliber of Chevening, Erasmus, and all of that, but people still get them. Some of them are even departmental. They are just in your department, just in a particular school. So if you have not gone to that school portal or to the department, you may not know about them. Like there's one Emily Botmy in France. If you don't visit all this, you won't know. There's what's the name of this scholarship in Poland? They're all like that. The Swedish government and this and that. If you don't familiarize yourself with all the scholarship, you wouldn't know. So you need to really research. And those ones are even, I wouldn't say they are easier, but because they are not very popular, they may be less competitive. So you may also want to consider those ones as well. And another thing I want to talk about is managing rejection. So I will want to say you should have other things that will take your attention at that time when you start receiving feedback, like a job. It's very good to have a job by applying to scholarship. One, you will have a work experience to put on your CV. And when you meet with interviewers, they ask you, oh, what are you doing now? Or something. You have a job to tell, I'm currently working as a data analyst, this and that. It shows you are very relevant. You are not just looking to jackpot as Nigerian people target. They know you just want to add virtue to what you have. You're not a non-entity roaming on the streets. So it's good to have a job for that sake, one. Two, you need funds in this journey. You need money. You need money. All these graduate applications, there are a lot, especially if you don't get fee waivers. They can be very expensive and maybe even unaffordable, and the exams as well. So you need money. So that's why you need to have a job that you can make money from. Thirdly, you need letters of recommendation as well. And if you do have a job, it's very easy for people to write you recommendation letters from your organizations. Then fourth, when you start receiving feedback, be it positive or be it any rejection. Now let's talk about the rejection part. It will hurt a lot, but if you know you have a job and the purpose of applying is not to jackpot, you'll be able to bear the rejection better. So for example, someone working at KPMG gets a rejection for a graduate school application, and someone who finished NYC and has no job gets a rejection. Who do you think will be more frustrated? I will leave us to answer that question. But in my own opinion, I think the person who has no plan B or plan C will be more frustrated or devastated. And I think someone who has a job and something to move on to, will feel like, okay, next year I'll try again and continue doing his or her job. So that's what I think. I think it's okay to have a job. It helps. Then, like I said, family can be supportive. I know because we are Nigerians, a lot of people want to keep their life private, and maybe you think your family people will work against you or something, but I think family can be very supportive. They can be very, especially your immediate family, in when rejection comes. Because I remember a lot of time my mother would call me and tell me to share up, she'll pray with me and all of that, and I'll feel better because it can really be bad. A lot of things will go wrong in your mind. You start thinking, what's wrong with somebody? What's happening? You question a lot of things about yourself when those rejection mails trip in. So please, you need a very good support system. But the most important thing is not to quit. If you don't get it in a particular year, please, by all means, try again and again and again. But one thing you should do is do something differently. Do something differently. If you didn't write some required exams in the previous year, endeavor to write them in the coming years. If you didn't use the right reference letters in your previous application, use better ones in the coming ones. So please, as you apply until you get a yes, try to submit better applications. Make sure your application this year is better than the one next year. And I think that's just it. Because if you don't try, it will never come. You cannot stay in your house and Chevening will email you an award. No, it's only people who have applied that will get it. So like my friends used to say, now give up, fuck up. So please, if you give up, now you fuck up. But I mean, I know it can be very discouraging. It's not as simple as I say it, but trust me, if you don't apply still, you won't get it. So you can just keep applying. But one thing you just need to do is don't apply blindly. Submit targeted essays, submit targeted CV and this thing. You can't be studying mathematics and go and apply to public health. Like some things don't work that way. So you need to apply with wisdom. Let me put it that way, and be sure of what you are applying to. Some people, because they have worked 1 year in public health and they have engineering background, they'll start applying to public health masters. It doesn't work that way. If you have not worked up to like 4-5 years, I don't think you should shoot for a public health master's if you have engineering background. So apply to what aligns with your studies, and there will be minimal rejections. Yes. I will open the chat now to
Yeah,
see.
there's this prestigious that raised hand for some time. I don't
Oh,
know
okay.
whether prestigious that
Yeah,
raised.
she's here. Good
Okay,
afternoon. Good evening,
okay.
Good evening.
everyone.
So you can
All right, you touched a bit of my question just a few minutes ago with regards to having a particular background, like your first degree on a particular course, and then you're working in a totally different department or something totally different from what you studied, and then you're going for a master's. Is it advisable to either mention what you're doing at the moment, like maybe in your personal statement or your to mention what you're doing at the moment, which might not really align to the masters you're applying for? Let's say, for example, you were a microbiologist and so far so good, you've not been working in that line after you finished graduation, or maybe you did an internship and didn't continue with internship and no. So you had a switch in career per se. And now you want to go for a master's with regards to the health sector again. So how do you balance that particular platform?
Okay. So you studied microbiology, worked in a different sector, but you want to go back to microbiology. Wow. Okay. That's a question. So those are the kinds of things that can make or mar your application. So you need to be like very careful with such a situation. But what I would say is it's very possible. I know people, like I can think of 2-3 people off top of my head right now who studies civil engineering or something. In fact, I call him school daddy when I was in university in Oyekiti. He worked at First Bank equally. We met and we became friends. So he studied botany at University of Lagos. And then I think 5-7 years after working as a banker with First Bank, he went back to botany in America. He's currently in the US. So it is very possible. But one thing I want to say is you need to, again, what you need to do in your essay is there's something they call transferable skills. You need to talk about the skills you acquired in the banking sector that you think will be relevant in botany or in research or as a teacher. So for example, my big daddy was a banker, right? But it was in the relationships management something or debt reconciliation. But it was in this department where they go out to talk to, not marketing, but they go out to talk to people and all. So he probably has public speaking skills and human resource management and all of that. So he was able to talk about those skills as how you can bring them to the classroom to teach. And so he got a teaching assistantship to be a teacher, to teach, to be a tutor. So there's something they call transferable skills. So it is you that will sit down and highlight those skills and let the reviewer see that, oh, okay, this person is fit for our office. Look at the things you have done. Like if some parts of banking, you probably done computing, mathematics, and all of that, and you are going back to, let's say, microbiology, cancer research. You can want to talk about how it has strengthened your mathematical or analytical skills. It is you that will highlight it, and then they will see that, oh, yes, there's something she's bringing back to the table. So again, they know when you get back to the classroom, you always pick up from the microbiology and continue where you stopped. So it is very possible, but you need to strategically write your essay. I don't know if you get my point, Precious or Precious.
Yes, I do. Thank you very much. I do.
Okay. Yes. So focus on the transferable skills, the skills you think you can bring. Like if you're a researcher but you're doing research in another field, you can always talk about your research skills and how you can bring it to your new study. So yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So
There's a question in the chat. I want to know if there is age limit for PhD scholars. I will emphatically say no, right? If the application does not state a limit, then there is no limit. That's what I want to know in the requirements. If they do not put age limit, please don't be discouraged with your age. But one thing I want you to know again is that if you are too old to think about it, will you be able to cope with the rigor of PhD? So it boils down to you. A lot of young people cannot. Even right now, I'm contemplating, and I'm not even sure if I can do a PhD. Like my application, I've not submitted because I'm not sure anymore if I can, because it's very rigorous. So even some young people cannot. It's not about age. But one thing you need to think about is the older you are, the more tired you may be. So if you think you are too old, like you are 50 and above, well, I don't know if you can cope with the rigor of PhD. But if you're 30, 35, I don't think there's any issue with that. Even 40, provided you can cope with the rigor. So, and there's no age limit. So there's, if you already have a PhD and want to do another one, is it possible to get a scholarship? Yes, very well. Why not? What you just need to do is state, especially if it's in a different field, which I want to believe it will be, for you to want to do another one. That means it's probably in another field. So you may want, you could have developed a new research interest in the in the in the course of your work, maybe post PhD. But again, PhD is very defined. So if you have a PhD in a field, it's believed that you have become a renowned scholar in that particular field, that you're already contributing to that research. So it's like you are committed to the cause of that research. So I wouldn't know why you want to go into another field again. So, but nothing is impossible. If maybe after one PhD, something came up and then you want to explore another one. But one thing you can always do is link both, see how one will complement the other, or something like that, or the knowledge of this one will help you achieve better. Say if you did microbiology and all of a sudden you want to do cancer, maybe the results of your former PhD can be very relevant in the new one, something like that. So, when someone takes a leadership responsibility, okay. So, you were saying something?
Yeah, I actually want to say that what we are dealing with is to some extent very flexible. Like she mentioned, if there are no specific requirements, that means that that is open to a whole lot of groups. So you can try your luck. And again, she pointed out it depends on how you communicate what you have. We call it packaging in Nigerian slang. If you know how to package yourself very well, I believe me, you will excel in this. Some of the things that we think that some of the criteria we think that we don't meet, we don't qualify for, actually we have the experience. It's just that we don't know how to package our experience well, present it, sell ourselves well. These are the kind of things we need to go back to learn. How to communicate our experience. Because like she made mention of, you can reach out. If you are not sure, reach out to the body, whether the scholarship board, the body, or the admission board, or whatever, to get some clarification. There are even some things, like I did mention the last time to some of us that are here. My wife got a scholarship and she did not have the English exam or whatever. But people that, in fact, somebody in her class, the same program that they did together in undergraduate, applied, they denied the person because of English exam. But my wife has to make a right to them to tell them why she feels that she actually didn't need English exam for her to study there. Make her case. Now, what am I saying? These things are flexible if you know how to communicate our to those people. So be open, and again, it requires, she mentioned the environment. If you have the right association and environment, look at, people are getting tired. Our presenter last time said that she spent like 6 hours daily surfing nets for information. How many of us can do that? Now, many people did not attend here because they have a Owambe engagement, because they feel that they have other engagement that is as if they did not attend, maybe something will spoil, I don't know. But what am I saying? It's about commitment. Now, about passion. What I used to do, I used to have a goal and dream. That is why I'm where I am today. And each time I feel that that thing is slipping away from me, I go back. I have some few selected speakers like late my Moron, uh, Tony Evans, and Tony Robinson. I listen to their motivational speeches, and it gets me fired up to keep pushing. I don't associate myself with the naysayers, those that discourage me. I associate myself with people that are of like mind. You can't, after discussing, maybe for example, maybe you are engulfed with fashion, entertainment, you spend all your energy. Suddenly you remember there's a scholarship. You say, let me attend. The passion, once it's been born in somewhere else, you may not have the enough drive to push. Some of the things we ask is possible, but the point is that we don't have enough information and passion to push through. There's a place you will get to. Some of these things will open up for you. You will see that there are lots of possibilities, whether writing professors, whether the changing, switching from this course to this other one. There are so many possibilities, but one, we need the right environment. We need the motivation, because why a lot of people, like we said, we have group chat. How many of them from our group chat is here? Probably some attended wedding that they are not even chief bridesmaid, they are nothing, just to go and eat rice and just to meet friends. Some other persons, because maybe they felt they have faced rejections and all of that, they are not here. And for whatever reason, why? Because you don't have enough passion to sustain this drive. Now, believe that whatever, in fact, last 2 days I was going through some motivational stuff. Somebody said that you must have a card, a bad. That means balls, attitude, and direction to keep pushing for this. So, what am I saying in essence? All the question, whether another PhD, whether a scholarship at whatever age, you can do any program at whatever age, once the passion is there. And one beautiful thing about the Western world is that they almost remove age in most things. Nobody is asking you how old are you here. Once you have what it takes to do it, they give you the opportunity to do it. So I want to plead with us to try to, if there's any way they are selling motivation, go and buy it, because you will need it well. It is very important, but there are so many opportunities out there for us if we press on to search. Our last presenter said he was working full-time night job and was doing full-time day nursing degree, and he was also spending hours on internet looking for scholarship. You can never beat that. So it's possible. I don't know whether we have more questions.
Yes, there's one more.
Okay.
Just one more. Someone is asking about what counts as leadership skill. So a welfare director, again, like Dr. Wanko just said, you may want to reward your experience, so that it really counts as like leadership skill. So you may want to use numbers, the number of people you catered for, mention some major activities, and let it make sense. Not like, oh, I was in charge of food distribution in my fellowship. No, that doesn't count. But there's a way you could have put it. Oh, a member spearheaded a 430 member fellowship, looks after their mental health and all of these things. Those are kind of things you want to let them know, their well-being and all. So it counts for, and you may not know, things like that can make you win awards like assistantship, tutor. So you can, it will count that, or you can look after well-being of students and all of that, or residents assistants in hostels. They'll be sure you can look after people. So again, it depends on how you want to write it. But if you have more important leadership experience, I'd rather you prioritize and pick the ones that are more related to your academics or to a larger audience where you impacted more people directly than you prefer. Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's any more question.
In addition to that, like she said, leadership a skill is leadership skill wherever you are, so long as you provided that to human beings. But the most important thing is, how do you present this role you played? Like she said, it's not going to be telling them you serve food and all of that. There's a way we should also talk about giving food, but in a more refined, packaged way. So that is one thing to take note of. It is important, is a leadership skill, is a role you play, which is supposed to count. But will you present it in a way that it will be attractive and catchy? You can't throw away that role. It's very important. You played it to human being, and these are is like a community service. Yes, it's a service you provided. So, but begin to learn how to put these things together to to anybody looking at it, so that it will make more sense to a broader audience. If you can provide that to that little group, that means you can provide that to a larger society. But most importantly, how do you present that to make sense? I remember I saw somebody saying that, how they package some things in LinkedIn. People will, package a little thing in, it will look like one big gigantic something. So learn how to package whatever you have. And again, she made mention of, and that is what people have been hammering, been talking about, your work experience and volunteering experience is very important. If you are looking at having this, I think you can also donate more of your time in service to people, to a just cause in your community, in your environment. They always want to see that you provide community, or provided community service through volunteering activities. Thank you. I don't know whether there are more questions. There are different types of fellowship. Somebody asking of fellowship and scholarship. There are fellowships for graduate, those on their programs, and those that finish their programs. There are different kinds of, even for undergraduates, but all you need to is to read about that and get more informed information about the difference between that and the scholarship that funds a full program like MSc, PhD, and stuff like that, or even undergraduates. I don't know if we have more people to respond, because I will have another meeting in
Okay.
next few.
I don't know if there are more questions. So I'd like to go as well.
Okay, wait. You can't just go like that. continuously. So if the people in the audience have no further questions, we like to appreciate, or is Dr. Mogaji there? And I can see Dr. Mobo. It's I can say hello to us, and
Yes, thank you very much, Doc. I really enjoyed this session. Can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you. A few
Okay.
comments from you.
Yeah, it was a very enlightening session. Thanks to the speaker and your comments. And I'm looking forward to further sessions. Thank you.
And
Okay, so I'm seeing one interesting question. Yeah, what was my hay game in Chevening? So Chevening is a very complicated application, and you cannot really say what your A game is. You know, but one thing I know is I wrote my essays well for for the for the initial round. Then when I got to the interview stage, you actually can know what distinguishes you. And one thing I would like people to bear in mind right now is that apart from what you have written and your interview, there are some arrangements to selection. Even in the normal undergraduate admission, Dr. Wanko, you can testify to this. There's a way school selects candidates based on catchment area, based on gender, based on this, based on that. And those factors come into play in terms of graduate schools, scholarships, and all of that as well. Like Erasmus, they already have the slots, two from Africa, two from this, two from that. So those things, and some of them want to maintain gender balance. So all of these things come into play, and you really can see what made somebody qualified or not. But one thing you can just know is that they were good enough, to have gotten to that stage, especially if they've gotten to the interview stage. But what made them eventually get to the final selection list, you don't know. You don't know. Everybody is as good as, because when I met other achievement scholars, I'm saying this because I met other achievement scholars, and when they talk, in fact, they will kill it with all the English, the adjective, everything, you know. But in the end, not everyone who got to the interview got selected. We were over 100 that were shortlisted for the interview, and only about 40 to 50 got to the finalists. So I cannot really say right now that this was what made me get Chevening. Again, you never can tell. You just need to communicate your experience, your interest, everything, communicate it well. And like I said, sometimes the God factor too, not even sometimes, at all times. So that's it. Because I know there was this guy from Kenya or Nairobi. There was even a day he had a presentation with the Minister of Information, Communication and Technology in his country, and he invited us to join him in his presentation. The guy was talking, dishing out everything, and I was like, oh my God. I went to his LinkedIn profile and everything was so, I was like, this is my dream profile. And when Chevening result came out, it wasn't shortlisted, So you will be so humbled at outcomes. And so again, the massacred application I did, I know so many first class students who applied and got rejection. They were not even invited for interview. I really can't say. I can't say what the A game is.
so the point is that probably because of how you packaged your application may be one of the reasons, because maybe those people, even with first class, fail to appeal to the selection board with the application. So it's important that you made mention of getting to people ahead of you to review, interact, ask questions, what will make your application stand out. I think it's very, very important. I used to say, when I heard that someone said that what makes success is about 80% attitude and 20% your certificate result. Now look, if we are to be on results, then the first class will be in the front, isn't it? But
Exactly.
because you have the right attitude that helped you to know that it's important to stand out, it's important to get other people that you feel that are ahead of you to contribute to your own little knowledge so that you will expand it. That is the right attitude, the right one that made you to stand out. So for the people asking this question, forget, yes, you may not have the best of results, but if you have the right attitude, you will beat the guy with the best of results without the best attitude. That is what I want you to go home with. Your result, you can't do anything about it now. It's too late. But your attitude, you have control over it. And it determines a lot about you. I think there are other questions in the chat.
Yes, and in addition to that, although you can't do anything about your results, but you can begin to improve, like take online courses and do well at them. Those things help, especially in Chevening, and it did help me a lot, so that you can present that, oh, I didn't do so well in undergrad, but I've done this hereafter, and I performed better at those things. So yes, it's very important. And I want to also say that if you ever have to present yourself physically or even virtually on Zoom, please endeavor to dress well or dress properly. It's very important, please. Very, very important. I wouldn't say more than that. So yes, the attitude also does come to play at the interview stage. You need to be able to overcome stage fright. You can't just develop good fit right in the front of your interviewers. So I remember when after my MasterCard interview, one of the interviewers, although she wasn't even on my panel, she was on another panel. She interviewed some other candidates. She went to her Twitter page and then tweeted that some interviewees were reading off their answers from the screen. So they envisaged the question and then they prepared the answer. They anticipated, oh, this question will likely be asked, which is smart of them. And then they prepared the answers. But what wasn't smart was that they put it on their screen. So if the interviewers ask the question, they will just open the file or something and be reading it out verbatim. So I think she observed it. It was for her to have tweeted it. That was the program coordinator of the MasterCard scholarship here at the University of Edinburgh. And then she went to Twitter to tweet it, that it was really a big turn off for her. I was like, God, thank you. She didn't even interview me, because I would have been scared. Like, why will this woman do something like this? So some people did that, and which is very bad. It's part of the attitude I'm talking about. Those things come off as lack of confidence in yourself and like that. So yes, it does come to play.
So someone asked something about Commonwealth. I don't know whether you.
Okay, yes, I am not. I am not familiar with Commonwealth. When I opened the application portal and I saw the whole 6 school something, I was just like, no, I'm not doing this. I already had tons of applications, so I'm not at all. I didn't even try to apply.
So this question, please, can we see sample A plus application letters well packaged?
Please, can we see sample A plus application letters well packaged? What does that mean?
I don't, maybe the person is talking about the whole application pack, with including maybe CV, personal statement or whatever. I don't know. But again, this is tailored. Each
Okay.
application is tailored towards a particular.
Of course, the things to include in your applications vary from application to applications, right? Some of them, it's not even personal essay like Erasmus. They call it motivation, just 300 words that has to be top notch. So you don't usually have the same documents in whole. But is the person asking for mine?
OPO
That's weird.
A12. This question is directed to you. Are you asking for Monisola's application pack? I don't know whether, or are you open to sharing yours?
No, I,
There's no
I don't
point
think that would be
asking.
ethically
Yeah, there's no
right,
point asking
and it
that.
it wouldn't even, it was so model. So one thing I learned when I wanted to write my application, I reached out to my mentor. He got a Chevening scholarship, and I asked him for his essay, and he was like, "No, he thinks I should write, and they would review." And I was so angry. Why haven't you give me an essay and all that? But then he told me it wouldn't help me. One, it won't help me develop my writing skills. Two, it won't help me to be original. And Chevening is always looking for originality. So again, you need to be very, you'll be so surprised that something in your story will just resonate with the committee, and then they are interested in you. Anything at all, anything. So you don't necessarily have to model your essays after former awardees, right? If you have people who can share the essay, that's very nice. But I even strongly advise people to write your own first. I mean, if you can't successfully write an essay, right, by now, you may not even be able to cope with the graduate program, because it's not a joke. It's not a joke. So if by now you can't sit down to write 300, 700 words essay, you probably can't do a PhD. So write your essay and then give it to them to review, or then they can share their own with you, and then you align it with yours and correct it. But that you don't know where to start from. You just want to take somebody's essay and slot in your own details. I'm not sure you are ready for graduate school. Somebody once asked me, they wanted my essay so that they would just, where I put the name of my school, they would put their own. They would, no, it doesn't work that way.
A lot of people are too mentally lazy that they don't want to do anything. They just want to copy and paste. And it's so unfortunate. That is what we're experiencing, and that is why people can't avail themselves of the opportunity to learn. They want shortcuts. Just do it for me. In fact, people want scholarship, but they don't want to do anything. Just get it for me, and then give me whatever to now go and do it. It doesn't work like that. And the best way to learn how to write is to start writing. Even this seminar we are doing, even if we like, we can do it for 5 years. If you don't act, it won't work for you. What we are doing is to provide the motivation, the information for you to act upon. But if you fail to act on them, it's as good as nothing. We have done nothing. So I encourage all of us to start. One thing I developed over the years is the kind of persistency. For me, rejection doesn't mean anything. It has a different meaning for me personally. That is why I keep pushing. I have told the story. I failed so in something. I kept writing the organizing chair. I kept communicating with the lady, even though I did not succeed in what I was writing originally. But I kept asking her for other opportunity. And eventually she referred me to somebody that gave me the opportunity of a research fellowship in the US. That is what persists. Even though I failed in what I was pursuing with her, but I persisted. Redefine failure and rejection. It will help you. That is one of the messages I will have for you, because some of the other things we are saying here, you can get it online. If you now develop the passion and go out to search, you will get it. But the attitude is what is important, and the passion. So in conclusion, I don't know if we have any final comment or question. Then I will ask, I don't know, Dr. Mobo, are you still here? Dr. Mobo, are you still here? So before we
Yes.
okay, because we would like you to also appreciate our guests for today's seminar, and we are hoping to, whenever we ask of help from you, that you can also be there to provide for us. My duty and assignment from now forward is to see how to motivate people. There are a lot of people that have shown concern. Even in our research WhatsApp group, in our scholarship WhatsApp, there are so many people, but they have it's like the fuel, the energy is burned out. No motivation to push forward. How do we provide that? I pray that God will help us, that subsequently more people will show more interest and persist. Dr. Mumu, can you thank Monisola for us for her time and
It's all right. The host, Dr. Wampo, thank you very much. And Monisola, well articulated speech. In fact, you took your time to take us through all the stages of the application process, and we're really very grateful for that. I believe any other time Dr. Wampo calls upon you, that you'll also make yourself available. Thank you for taking out time from your very busy schedule to do this. Thank you very much.
thank you, Doctor. And to every one of us, we are open. Okay, you want to respond, Monisola? Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me around. I'm happy to inspire others. So yes, thank you all for having me.
Okay, you are welcome. And I want to tell you that we need this family, we need this environment to get everyone achieve their goal. We are here for you. If you have a question, if you need a help, in fact, somebody is asking of us. I know that in our group we have shared certain samples of essays and all of that for some persons. We are here to provide the guide, the leadership, the help that you may. So long as we are able to do that, that is why we exist, to help one another. Take advantage of that. And I know that God will continue to bless all of us. Thank you once again, and thank you, Monisola. As we call it a day, you can reach out to us for any further clarification or information. We can provide the recordings to as many that will want it. And God bless us for joining and grant us success in our endeavor. Bye.